Welcome to The Explainer. You know when you look up at the clouds and you see a face? Or maybe you've seen the man in the moon? Well, it turns out that's not just your imagination running wild. It's actually your brain doing something incredibly fundamental. Today, we're going to dig into a fascinating new idea that connects those simple moments to the literal physical wiring inside your head.
So, take a good look at this. What's the first thing that pops out at you? A vase, maybe? Or is it two faces looking right at each other? See, your brain doesn't just sit there and count up all the black and white pixels. Nope, it instantly organizes this into a meaningful shape. It sees a figure against a background. It's one or the other, but it's never ever just a random mess.
So why? Why does our brain automatically take this chaos, really, and turn it into something that makes sense? For about 100 years, we've had psychological theories to explain this. But what if it's more than that? What if the answer is literally written into the physical structure of our brains? What if the way we see the world is a direct reflection of our brain's architecture? Okay, let's dive into this.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the classic idea of Gestalt psychology. Then we'll introduce this powerful new concept, neuro-Gestalt analyze. After that, we'll explore the incredible maps that exist inside our brains. We'll use that to reinterpret those old psychological laws through a biological lens. And finally, we'll ask the big question, why is this so critically important in the screen-filled world we live in today?
First things first, let's take a step back in time. We need to understand an idea that completely changed how we think about perception. It started with a simple observation, but one with really profound implications. The core idea of Gestalt psychology is this. Our experience of the world isn't like building with tiny sensory bricks, piecing the world together one bit at a time. Instead, it's an organized layout. From the very beginning, patterns just stand out to us as stable, coherent wholes. We perceive meaningful forms right from the get-go.
And these so-called laws of Gestalt are kind of like the grammar of our perception. They explain why we see objects as distinct from their background, why we group things that are close together or look alike, and why our brains tend to prefer the simplest, most stable shape possible. But here's the big question they left us with. What if this grammar wasn't just some abstract thing in the mind? What if it was hardwired into the brain itself?
And that question, that's where our new concept, neurogestalt analyse, comes into play. This is where we add a crucial biological layer to the whole story, and honestly, it changes everything.
So what is neurogestalt analysis, or NGA for short? Well, in simple terms, it argues that what we see in our mind's eye has to have a direct, physical counterpart in our brain. Every stable image you perceive is actually a stable pattern of neural activity playing out on a real, physical map inside your head.
And this is the real game changer. For the classic Gestalt psychologists, the field of perception was more of a metaphor for our psychological experience. But NGA says nope, it's not a metaphor. It's a literal, physical field of electrical and chemical activity spreading across the living tissue of your cortex. We're shifting from the mind's rules to the brain's physical reality. Now, to really grasp that, we need to take a quick look at how the brain itself is structured, because it's probably not organized the way you think it is. For a long time, we thought of the brain as a bunch of isolated centers, a spot for this, a spot for that. But what modern brain imaging shows us is just incredible. Our brain is actually organized into these continuous maps that literally mirror the world around us. Think about that for a second. Neighboring points in the environment are represented by neighboring patches of brain tissue. In a very real sense, your brain's geography reflects the world's geography. And we see these maps everywhere. In the visual cortex, you've got retinotopic maps that preserve the layout of your retina. In the auditory cortex, tonotopic maps lay out sound frequency. For your sense of touch, somatotopic maps represent your entire body. The key takeaway here is that the brain's physical layout already respects the geometry of the world we perceive. It's baked right in. And this right here illustrates the core idea perfectly. The distinct shape you see with your eyes, that edge, that contour, is being implemented as a distinct electrical shape in your brain. It's a literal ridge of activity on a neural map. A stable perception is nothing more than a stable pattern of neurons firing.
Okay, so with this powerful connection made, we can go back and look at those classic Gestalt laws in a completely new light. They're not just psychological descriptions anymore. So when you see a figure against a background, that's not just some clever trick of your consciousness. It's your brain physically creating a high-contrast electrical pattern on a neural map that is already laid out and structured to make sense of the world. So now, we can reinterpret these laws. Grouping? That's simply patches of your cortex that are tuned to similar features, like a specific color or sound, all firing together in sync. And pregnance? That tendency to see simple shapes? That's just your brain's natural bias. It's settling into the most energy-efficient, stable pattern of activity it can. A smooth, symmetrical shape is just plain easier for your neural fields to maintain. Now, I know this all might seem a little academic, but the central claim of NGIA has some truly profound implications for our modern lives, especially when it comes to how we interact with technology. Get this, our modern interfaces, our social media feeds, our apps, they are not just competing for your attention in some abstract way. They are actively and physically driving the fields of your cortex. The edge of a tree in the real world and a notification icon on your phone are, to your brain, just different ways of physically manipulating its neural patterns. One is a lawful cue from nature, the other is an industrial lure from technology. So the crucial point is that the design of our digital world can either support or disrupt the very brain processes that allow us to make stable sense of reality. They can recruit specific parts of your brain's maps, overload them with too much information too fast, and then starve them of the context needed for a stable figure to even form. Think about an endless scroll. It starves your brain of a beginning and an end, making it impossible to form a complete picture. Neurogestalt analysis gives us a new, biologically grounded language to ask a critical question. Is our technology designed to support our brains or to break them? Are we building a digital world that's actually livable for our own nervous systems, or are we designing an environment that's fundamentally at odds with how we are built to see, understand, and judge the world? The answer to that is going to shape our future.